Nowadays, the metal genre is pretty accepted, right? You're not really that much of an outsider if you have a Slayer shirt.
Okay, fair
enough.
enough.
More or less. I mean, at least in Germany. I'm not sure how it is in the States for you.
Fair enough.
But how was it back in the 80s? How was it being a metal kid? How was your metal upbringing for you?
I brought myself up like a champ. I loved all music. I loved it all. I listened to it all, but metal was my absolute favorite. I always tried to have a very open mind towards all music. I tried not to, the only kind of music I didn't care for was the stuff kind of at the top of the charts that just seemed really plastic and fake and derivative upon everything else that has come that was also plastic and fake. So those shitty pop bands like Human League and things like that. I admit I was not much of a Duran Duran fan. That just didn't, you know, a couple of their songs are okay, but that was always the big bands in the States at the time. I couldn't get behind that because it had no soul. It felt like it was driven from financial, you know, aspirations. Like if we write shitty songs like this and we just put this garbage out that the populace is just going to accept, like, yeah, it's great, we're going to make millions of dollars. That was not my scene. But, you know, good new wave, even like Adam and the Ants, things like that, with tasty music. It got big, but that wasn't their fault. I could get behind that. But metal was my absolute favorite genre. And I was very fortunate to have kind of a metal guru in my life, a guy back in California named Bob Nalbandian. And you might see his name around. He puts out a lot of films about the early days of LA metal, and he was my go-to guy for metal. You know, I'd see him around, and he'd pass me over a little a compilation tape of all the bands. You know, I'd even say, "Hey, Bob, can you give me all these bands that I haven't heard of, I haven't heard yet, but I'm reading about? Can you make a tape?" Because he had everything. And so, you know, I'd see him every couple months. He'd fire me over a new tape with all these requests of mine. He was very gracious in that regard, and that helped me in my metal upbringing. And so for me, my first, earliest, most rippingest metal band was, of course, Iron Maiden. First album, Iron Maiden. I got the first album in 1980 when it came out. And that was my first huge year of super underground metal. You know, and then I moved pretty quickly over to Raven with the Wiped Out record and all the underground stuff that was happening, you know. So it's like I lost, by the time Killers came out, still nobody knew who Iron Maiden was. They were starting to do a little bit of touring, opening for UFO and maybe some Judas Priest here and there. And by the time Number of the Beast came out, they exploded and they were everybody's band. They weren't my little underground back pocket band. Only I knew. You know, there's kids walking around the streets with Iron Maiden shirts, and that was like, no, fucking boo. So that's when I really dove into the underground, and I'm an absolute encyclopedia of rock and roll in general. I go all the way back to the 50s. I can chat about doo-wop and soul music and early days of rock and roll and all the 60s, 70s. I'm very well versed at, you know, because I love music. It just happens to be that metal, and especially aggressive thrash metal, is my favorite kind of music. So that's what I concentrate on, but it's not a soul concentration. I'd like to be well-rounded, and if I were ever to do a rock and roll Jeopardy episode, I would put on the screen, you know, I don't know if you guys get Jeopardy out here, but, you know, you put your name on the blue screen, and it says, I wouldn't even put my name, I would put, "I will destroy you," you know, so there you go, because I'm pretty good at all that. But yeah, my metal pedigree is very established, you know, and that's my jam, so I know it really well, and I'm the encyclopedia of total early metal, rock, you name it.
I will destroy you.
Yeah.
Okay, man. That's a good final word.
Yeah, excellent.